riding on the freeway with the cars.
Is that illegal?
Of course it's not illegal, but this is the
illegal.
thing.
Illegal,
it's
yeah.
illegal. But this is the thing.
Yeah, yeah.
This race is
No
whatever.
rules. Yeah. Except for track bikes, no rules.
Whatever. And so I leaned out in front of this car. Crazy idea.
Slow him down.
To slow this SUV down. It's honked. And as I've pulled out of its way, I've grabbed onto its side door and it's just launched me.
Oh, no.
And I've gone right past Felipe because I'm holding on, spinning madly across Williamsburg Bridge for as long as I could. I'm like, holding on. Like, all right, it's going to be doing 60 soon. My legs can't go that fast on this limited
Doing
gear.
like 200 revs per
Correct.
minute.
So I let go. But I'd passed Felipe. I'm like, right, back in the hunt.
Well, guys, that is a little snippet from the episode I did last week with Andy White, aka FYXO, Fixed Gear Riding, Bike Messenger Scene, the underground racing of alley cats, and a whole lot more. It's a fantastic episode. I loved sitting down with Andy, and I've got him back this week for Talking Luft. That's right, here we are, guys. This is Talking Luft, Life in the Peloton, and presented by our major partner this year, Rafa. I'm loving what Rafa's doing, and I've been really enjoying working with them over the last few years because it's all about making cycling the most popular sport in the world. That's what we're doing here at Life in the Peloton too, trying to spread the word of how cool it is to get out there on a bike. People ask me what are one of those things I've taken over from my pro life, and aside from my riding legs, of course, the other thing has been AG1. I was using that when I was racing overseas, when I was over there living in Europe. And it's more than just greens. It's a comprehensive blend of vitamins and minerals, probiotics, superfood complexes. It helps provide digestive support, immunity support, metabolism, energy, and stress support. I needed all those things when I was racing at the pointy end. Well, I thought I did. I wanted to have all my bases covered. Of course, I'm no longer at the pointy end of professional sport, but I still want to, and I think I need to feel good too. For my day-to-day life, for my family, but also for my kids, the little munchkins. I like to start my day with AG1 because I know from then on, whatever happens, I've got a nice nutritional foundation for the day, a really good kickstart. It's a part of my daily routine. I'm really enjoying that. Get up in the morning, first thing, grab my shaker, add some water, a scoop of AG1, shake it up, drink it down. It's that simple. AG1 have also got these portion-sized travel packs, which I take with me when I'm on the road, which is more often than not, and I can keep on my routine as I travel. It's so simple. If a comprehensive solution is what you guys need from your supplement routine, AG1 is going to give you a free 1-year supply of vitamin D and 5 free travel packs with your first purchase. Now, head across to ag1.com/lifeinthepeloton. That's drinkag1.com/lifeinthepeloton and grab yourself one. As you guys know, you know how it works here at Talking Luft. We're going to run through some questions, try and trip Andy up when we can. He's a bit of a style king himself, so it was interesting to get a little tidbits of what he thinks is cool. Tried to get some bike knowledge off him. Guys, I'm not going to say any more. You know how it works. Sit back and enjoy this one. I bring you Talking Luft with FYXO. We're back here with, I'm going to refer to you as FYXO today because I think it's appropriate.
I think it's appropriate. People call me FYXO. I call my daughter Little FYXO. So let's go with it.
Well, we're doing Talking Luft. We're talking with Andy White, aka FYXO, and we'll be referred to as FYXO from now on. You are a bit of a fashion guru, mate, aren't you?
Can you just tell that to Melody, because she finds that hilarious, and I find it quite hilarious myself that people... Well, that even you would think someone as fashionable as yourself, me, a fashion guru. Let's call it style. I don't think fashion. Yeah, let's go with it. If you say so, then it must be true.
Well, let's find out and let everyone else judge you from afar, from their ears. And all right, well, let's just start with this is Talking Luft, so we've got to start with caps. We've got to talk about casquettes, the little cycling caps.
Absolutely.
I guess in the messenger world, what are they called?
Cycling caps.
Okay.
Yeah, cycling caps. So casquettes is something that's very Euro term. They wouldn't have flown or even been on their radar.
Capolinos?
Not even Capolinos. No, bike caps.
What's your style? You wear it forwards, backwards? I'm talking about without a helmet when you're walking around, or maybe, whatever. What is your style?
Okay. I would say up high, peak down is my go-to for a cycling cap, and would be back in the day.
In Geraint.
Correct.
Nice.
Correct.
Let's move on to then without a helmet. And if you ever did ride without a helmet, or if you ever thought about what your style would have been racing back in the day without a helmet, or even just cruising around without a helmet. I know it's not done. It's done in other countries, not in Australia. But what's your style when you're on the bike without a helmet?
Well, it's funny you bring that up because when I was working overseas in London, quickly you get into winter and you're trying to keep your head warm. And I started to ride as a bike crew without a helmet. Maddeningly. Yeah, I look back and I think, you idiot. But I'd loved beanies. And like even to this day, obviously I don't have a lot of hair and I had a Hare Krishna hairdo of the time. So I was big into beanies, mad beanies, bright beanies, winter caps. That was really my go-to for style. And this was without a helmet. But I was mucking around with a mate late night in London and I had a bit of an off and tested how hard the pavement was with my head.
Ooh.
And I decided, I think this beanie era is behind me. I'm going to start wearing a helmet. And pretty much from that point on, I've always worn helmets on the bike as much as I love cool headwear, beanies, caps, you name it.
Did you ever go the Belgian warm cap?
Yeah, and actually we sell something very much like that. So yeah,
because
because
there's a little plug there for the business.
Yeah,
isn't it? Just a little
of
slip it
course,
in.
Mitch. Well, maybe we could do a collab. Under keeping your head warm, particularly you got to remember, like I was working in New York through winter, Vancouver through winter, horrible conditions. Being warm, I'm in my optimal environment. If I'm cold, I am not a pleasant person to be around. So that was a big part. Same with my feet. If I get cold feet, I'm not fun to be around.
What about your legs? Next question is, did you or do you shave your legs?
I used to, not now.
Why? Why did you shave your legs as a courier?
As a courier, I would say I started to shave my legs when I was getting into racing because it was the done thing. Early days, I think a few
Just to
races.
be more aero, saving 0.3 of a second out in the club race.
Like a few people make comments about people with hairy legs, and I've got very light hair, so it was, and I wasn't particularly hairy, so it wasn't a big thing. But I do not miss shaving my legs.
Lycra or baggies? And I'm talking about when you were a messenger.
Shorts. But I remember the first time I bought a pair of bibs. And it was transformative because I'm like, holy smokes, these things are so comfortable. I was in San Francisco as a pair of Italian Santini bibs. And I was like, oh my God, a chamois. A chamois. This is amazing. Because I just hadn't had one before. Okay.
What did they think though when you rolled up in Nicks?
Well, I was wearing them with shorts over the top.
Oh, so you hid them. You were
I
scared.
hid them. Oh, well, it's funny you say that because when I worked in Vancouver and met my then to now wife, I was wearing a skin suit. So I had no problem getting around basically in my underwear in the street, which is, if there's no more revealing garment in the cycling world than the skin suit. You've got to look trim, otherwise you look ridiculous. So the first time I met Melody, I was wearing a skin suit and she was impressed.
What about now? Do you like to wear X-Pro kit? Because I've seen you in some classic good X-Pro kit. Or do you like the new wave stuff? You like to sort of keep it rolling?
Very, very rarely ride road now, Mitch. But back when we first met and I was riding Northern Combines, I mean, I was wearing the Carrera denim, all of the retro 90s kits, Mapei kits, even the old school woolly kits I would be wearing. Definitely, I lean towards stuff that has a bit of history and nostalgia than the modern stuff. The modern stuff I find very bland, it's very palette based, and it's very, very trim. I would say ectomorph is probably the build you got to be to look good in a modern kit. They're very fitted.
Gloves or no gloves? I wondered this the other day. I was thinking of you guys. I'm thinking messengers. I'm now referring back to being a bike messenger. Gloves would have been a great idea, but actually you got them on all day too. Would you have done that?
Absolutely. Gloves.
Really?
Oh, hell.
Or like mitts, like short finger ones.
Well, this is the thing, because you're working outside all the time and you need... Well, this also, riding a track bike in a sense with no brakes is easier in the sense because you don't need to use your hands to have control over changing gears or using the levers. So mitts is basically what I would wear, and neoprene mitts, I remember the first pair I got from MEC, were the one pair of gloves that even though your hands would be wet all day, they would be warm. And again, just being comfortable. You're outside in the elements, an extreme environment. Being comfortable was a big part of the job, and gloves, you'd almost always be wearing gloves unless it was summer. You know?
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
I forgot to explain at the start. We're going to run through style bikes, a few topics, a little bit of bike knowledge. We've got a bit of a quiz for you as well, culture and about you. So we've just done a bit of style. Let's talk about bikes because that is something that you are very fond of. I know that's a
like
real
bikes.
understatement,
Yeah.
but I couldn't think of a better word. Let's just start with, and I've added extra in for you, RMGT, road bike, mountain bike, gravel bike, or track bike, one bike forever. What is it?
What about cargo bike? You need to add another category.
Let's not get extreme here. Then
let's go
BMX, penny farthing.
Yeah. Have you ridden a penny farthing?
I've never ridden one.
You're not a cyclist until you've ridden a penny farthing. It is the greatest experience ever. I suggest that if someone out there is listening, has a penny that we can loan Mitch. Anyway, we're getting off topic. We'll stick to the question. Mountain bike, 100%. It was the first bike that really pulled me in and got me addicted to cycling. I got into track bikes because I wanted the experience of mountain biking. Absolutely. If I had one bike to do everything, mountain bike, because you can bike pack on it, you can ride trails, you can do a road ride. It's not much fun, but absolutely mountain bike, 100%.
Well, this is quite good because I was hoping you'd say mountain bike because this sort of works back in with what I think everyone would have thought you have said, fixed, which would have been a track bike. So the next question is fixed or geared because you have a fixed geared mountain bike.
I did have a fixed gear mountain bike.
Well, not fixed, I mean single speed.
Yes.
So this should have been
which is my
speed.
go-to. I mean, I can have a geared bike, but I love single speed mountain bikes.
You had a fixed geared mountain bike.
Yeah, of course.
Why?
Because it's possible, and why not? And again, like in the early days of the thousands, I just liked riding bikes that would just blow people's mind. And
so no brakes.
No brakes.
Would you do trails?
I did a few crits on. It's horrible to ride on trails, but I could do it. And honestly, it was one of those things. You parallel this to like a skateboard culture. I think fixed gear riders in that era, we were just looking to see what was possible. If it was possible, it might not have been fastest, but I could definitely ride very fast. I had a a fixed wheel cross bike, basically. It was a track bike with knobbies, like 32s, and I could rip on it. And I remember going to crits and I would be ripping past people on regular mountain bikes. So it can be done. It has been done. Nothing is new, certainly. I mean, I don't know if I mentioned this in the previous pod, but I did the hell ride on a track bike with no brakes.
You did, yeah.
Yeah, so and I did it just to say, well, can it be done? Yes, I did it. Yes, okay. Anything is possible. Don't put limits just because you can't do it. That's the great thing. What is possible? We're seeing that in sport all the time.
What about rounded bars, classic rounded bars, or bull horns?
Oh, look, I love the visual of track drops, but I rode for a long time with bull horns.
Are they called bull horns? It's sort of made that up.
Bull horns. No, they're absolutely called bull horns. That was a big part of my early days. It was just more comfortable, and it was easier to put like a time trial brake because I could do nose wheelies when I had a brake on my track bike with bull horns. But I love the classic. When I think about the perfect bike, it's the Eddie Merckx Hour Record bike. It is just a classic, iconic bicycle to me. And the aesthetic when I'm putting together bikes starts around that. Just a beautiful balance of composition. So that's what I love about the aesthetic of a track bike.
All right, spoke cards and crap in the wheel, or you like to keep it clean?
Well, it's interesting. I'll tell you a backstory about the origin of spoke cards. Is a messenger who's a legend in the game, who I highly respect, Kevin Squid Bolger. His brother actually got him into track bikes, but he hosted an alley cat called the Warriors Ride. And if you're familiar with the Warriors movie...
Oh, yeah. Where are the Warriors?
Warriors! Yeah, it was great. Anyway, so Squid also travelled to the Cycle Messenger events, and he told me that he put like a playing card in his wheel, and then the next race he hosted, the playing cards were like rider numbers, and that is where the spoke card culture came from. And when I hosted events, you'd give out spoke cards, and from a messenger perspective, it was kind of like a trophy case of all the places you'd been. So absolutely, in the day, I had all manner of stuff, and got to the point where it was ridiculous. I was putting stuff that I'd find on the street in my rear wheel. And it was like a disc. I'll find a photo somewhere. But I almost had a disc wheel of crap.
Yeah, there you go. That's where the crap came from.
And I remember one time I did the hell ride on said bike and there was crap flying out because I was going so fast. But yes, it was definitely a visual. One that I'm not...
So what's the answer?
What's the answer? Spoke cards. Got to have spoke cards. Yeah.
Euro brakes or goofy? You like to go Euro brakes left hand front, right hand back, or goofy right hand front?
Whatever the Australian standard is.
So
I know whenever I grab your mountain bike, I'm like, what the heck? What the heck? Standard.
But you're in the US for a while.
Well, I wasn't riding brakes, so it just wasn't a thing.
So the crank's on the other side, was it?
No, but on the crank thing, I'll just quickly say that I had a left-hand drive track bike once, and one of my mates, Zach, caught a thing called a double dragon, where he got a tandem crank set and he put a drivetrain on both sides.
Does it make it go faster?
Looked cool as hell. Cool as hell.
Tri-spoke wheel or disc on the road, or just a classic 28 spoker?
I love my spokes, 28s. And the 28 pattern gives you a beautiful star pattern. So, I mean, I can spot the number of spokes from a mile away just by the lacing pattern. So.
It does look fun. I've never been a fan of the whole big carbon wheel, when you see the fixed gear riding through the city. I'm like, mate, seriously.
What about as a pro, though?
No, well, that's purpose for a race.
Oh, right.
Like, I'm talking about when you see those guys with tri-spoke wheel.
That was very fashion. It was very fashion-driven.
Tan wall tyres or stealth black?
Next, tan, always, every bike.
All right. Do you have a Strava account?
Of course I do.
Do you hunt comms?
No.
All right. Why not?
When they're worth money, Mitch, I'll have a lot. But until that day, it's just chest speeding and I've got nothing to prove to anyone.
Favourite training loop, that one loop that you really love, that you think everyone out there should go and do. Tell us, run us through it. Where is it? How does it go?
Well, I suppose now it's a super loop in the gorge, and it's I suppose, 18 minutes flat stick that we're going to do. You would have done countless times. It's just a great classic trail loop of the gorge, few bridges, has all of the fun, the visuals and the stimulus, as well as if you want to go hard, it's a really good kick in the guts.
So mountain bike loop out here in the Plenty Gorge, just outside of Melbourne.
I roll out my front door, and it's very close to Melbourne if people want to.
And you can roll out from here. What's the address here, actually? There's coffee on.
Well, I mean, at the future house, the future FYXO, if you knock on my door, I will make you a coffee.
A rider comes towards you. Are you a wave person, simple nod gesture, or you just sort of head down?
I'm a wave and say g'day. I am loud, if you have not gathered. I'm very engaged, and same with my daughter's the same. If I see someone on the trail, I'll stop and have a gas bag. I'm that guy.
Are you ready? Bike knowledge. You reckon you know your bikes pretty well? You ready for the quiz?
I think I'm ready.
All right, here we go. So the quiz is, I'm going to say the bike model. You let me know what company makes it and what it's famous for.
Okay.
Well, you don't have to get the famous for bit. I can say that at the end.
I'm pretty sure I've helped you out with a few of these pods, so I reckon I back myself here, but all right, I'm always willing to learn something.
We'll start easy, and I expect you to get what it's famous for. C40.
Oh, the Colnago C40. Mapei is obviously the team that made it famous, but it was in the Peloton.
What's C40 named after?
Colnago.
Why is it 40?
Or carbon 40.
Why 40?
40. Oh, there you've thrown me. That's the flipper.
It's named after the 40th birthday, and the C50 after the 50th birthday of Colnago. I only found that out yesterday doing the research for this. I thought it was quite cool.
I was thinking it'd be something along the lines of an anniversary, but yeah. So there's a C60, and I think there's probably a C. I mean, Ernesto's been around a long time, and on a nerd, I'm going to nerd you out. One of my mates has one of the very first bikes Ernesto ever made, and it's a lady's bike. Ernesto wanted to buy it back. He said, sorry, mate, not for sale.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah, super cool.
Sword?
Oh, no idea. Come on.
Okay, think of
sword.
Pro cycling in the 90s. Tour de France, one of the best riders through the 90s.
Is it a Pinarello?
It is. Good work.
Yeah.
What's that famous? Why? What sort of bike is it?
It's famous for being ugly. I don't know.
That famous Miguel Indurain TT bike.
Oh, that's called the Sword. Obviously, I feel like you should slap me right now because that is a massively iconic rig, right?
But you still got it.
It's a monocoque though, right? Yeah. Is it a monocoque bike, the Sword? Was that pre...
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the time trial bike, right?
Yeah, the big time trial bike,
okay.
yeah.
All right.
CAD.
Oh, it's Cannondale. Stands for something, 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 something.
Can you get one of those somethings?
Aluminium.
That's one of them.
Development. No, Cannondale.
Well, you got two of the four. Cannondale Advanced Aluminium Design. And who really made this bike famous in the 90s?
I would say the guy who should be locked up right now.
Chippo. Corsa.
Eddie Merckx. Corsa Extra. Yeah. No. Corsa.
Think of that. It's Italian.
Oh, yeah, you've just thrown me, like you've got me right in my weak points.
Well, I
Mitch.
thought this one actually was probably going to be a bit more up your alley. This is the Bianchi, and FYXO copies Bianchi.
Oh, really?
1951, yep.
Okay.
Tour de France winning bike.
Classic. Was that with the Cambio Corsa, like Derailleur? I'm going to say.
Don't know. You could be get one up
all right,
on me there.
You got me there.
All right.
There.
Delta V.
Delta V. Is that a... Oh, man, you've just found all of, obviously, the bikes that...
Well, they're hard. I made this super hard for you, but this is the Cannondale, the original hardtail. The name was hardtail was invented after this bike. It's the first. It's the head shock.
Okay.
With no,
crack and fail is how we refer to them.
Yeah, right. Fair enough.
Look, and you've got me like I'm not a huge Cannondale fan. Sorry to anyone that's listening that loves them or Giants, but yeah, no idea. Sorry, I've learned something today.
Torino.
I know it's a town in Italy or it's a region. Torino.
I'll give you a clue. It's Italian.
Yeah, that's
the
not much
bike
of a clue.
won Roubaix in 1977.
1977.
And a Brooklyn rider rode it.
Oh, that'd be Roger Vlamic.
Well done.
The Torino, so it must be a Geos.
Well done. KG86.
Oh, that's the look.
And
that would be Alex Zula.
No. What was it? Why was it super famous, this bike?
Was it one of the early carbon monocoque?
First carbon frame, apparently.
First carbon frame. Okay.
5500.
55. That's a Trek.
Well done.
Yeah.
Why is that famous?
It's not famous at all. Oh, actually, I'm trying to think who rode it around the time. The 9.8 and the 9.9 was the high end. But the 50, hang on, we're talking road, right? 5500 must be the 99 tour bike.
Well done.
Lance Armstrong,
bike, yeah,
the greatest cyclist. Can I just throw that in there? Just to stir the pot.
The Kevin.
The Kevin. That's the Curve.
Yeah,
Kevin
nice.
Curve. Yes,
Nice.
a very famous gravel bike.
From
locally.
Australia, here
From
in
Australia.
Melbourne. The Stump Jumper.
The very first, well, maybe the first, but I think it was marketed as the first mountain bikes by Specialized. Yeah, iconic.
Old Faithful.
Old Faithful. Is that a model?
Yeah, this is getting a bit more back to your sort of area now.
Faithful.
We're talking single speed. Fixie.
No idea.
This is the Graham Orby 1993 hour record. He made this with parts of his washing machine.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, it's funny. The 1993 Aubry World Championships that Billy Joe broke the world record with in the team pursuit. He told me that Graham Aubry knocked on his door at night while they were staying in the hotel and just came over for a yarn. Very, very peculiar guy. But there you go. Old Faithful.
Last one, Superbike.
Superbike is the RMIT and BT collaborative project, which, well, it later became the BT, but it was a project by RMIT. It's a monocoque track bike, very famous for team pursuit. And I think, did Scott McGrory ride one?
The 2000 Olympics made it really famous. That's where they sort of rode it, the Australian team. Yeah, I think... but yeah, that's sort of it. That was Bike Technologies, and I thought it was quite cool to go to that one because it's pretty close to home here, not too far away, the factory.
It's literally like 2 kilometres down the road. It is very, very cool.
Well, last one to finish off bikes. Best bike for you. What's your favourite bike? Of all those bikes you've got hanging out in your shed, what's that one bike you just love?
Honestly, it's the one between my legs. It truly is. I think there's so many different styles of bikes which you've talked about, but the bike that I'm riding is my favourite of the time. You know, it's just being on a bike out there, particularly with your mates and having a yarn and getting out and getting the blood flowing.
Just quickly, side note, I was trying to find a postie bike, like a postman's bike. I was reading that maybe that was made by...
It's made by Southcott in South Australia, but Ewan Galley, who's a custom frame builder who sadly passed away, he was involved with the engineering of those bikes to handle the loads for the front basket, and they're iconic. And
because I thought that Malvern Star had something to do with making them.
if they did, I'm unaware of it. That's my knowledge of the iconic postie bike. And if you want a mad pub bike,
because you had one, didn't you?
Yeah,
I remember.
Yeah. You can pick one up for about $150. Just search Marketplace. They're great. An icon.
Let's move on to culture. Favorite race for you of all time? That one race that you either have done, that one race that you love watching. What's your favorite race?
Oh, my favorite race when I was a bike courier was Monster Track. And just because it was like the Flanders, I suppose, of the season, and it gathered people from all around the world. It's a real hotspot of messenger culture. It was in New York, and we talked at length about that. In terms of road races, I loved racing the Northern Combine. Actually, the circuits out Lancefield were great. Great part of the world. And
best part of the world.
And I actually won a few in A grade back in my day, like in the 1920s.
Favorite rider of all time?
I don't know if I can have a favourite. It's hard to go past Jan, just because Jan's Jan.
Jan Ulrich, we're talking about.
Jan Ulrich. Yeah, mountain biker, obviously Cadell, a local kid who, same age, grew up on the other side of the tracks and just dominated from such a young age. And it was really hard to watch his career as a mountain biker because he was so close so often, and even as a pro. But his determination and resilience and perseverance is unparalleled. So I would say Cadell for mountain biking and road, but and again, track.
Are we going through all the disciplines?
No. All right, I'll leave it there.
Yeah.
I'll leave it there.
You can do favourite rider right now then?
My daughter, I would say.
Nice.
Because I love hanging out with her and riding bikes.
This is a big one for you. Favourite kit?
Favourite kits? Oh, we're talking, I feel there's a subtext of road kit.
Well, it can be, but you're a bit different on this one because obviously you come across a lot of different, cycling sort of avenues. You got track, you've got fixed, the messenger scene, you've got mountain biking. Obviously, you got your own kit brand. Then you've got the road, which is inspired, I think, a lot of your kits. So, mate, it's a big question for you.
Look, I suppose a lot of the stuff that we did was a fusion of the influences I had musically, 90s basketball music. Camo, I loved camo growing up. So I suppose...
Well, maybe you like that team in France that had the camo kit, the military team.
Horrible. We did a camo kit, and that and a mixture of the Bulls kit that we did. I would say the Chicago Bulls cycling kit, because at the time we also did overshoes, which were Jordan 5s, which was... No one had done them before. They were subsequently shut down quickly by Nike, and people have tried to do it since. I'm pretty happy with that kit, and the shoe covers were mad. It was a design challenge for myself because I'm very much self-taught and I'm not a fashionista. So yeah, I would say my favourite kit is the cycling Bulls kit that we did.
Nice.
Yeah.
War story. I'm sure you've got one from back in the day.
War story.
What's one that's popping to mind that one day we just like, don't know what was going on that day, but this is just my day,
Look, I suppose the war story that most people are familiar with is when I broke my neck and I was training up.
Well, tell us about it.
Well, it was a windy day. I was in this chapter of my life where I was fooling myself that I might be half-decent cyclist by going out and training. I was doing ergo sessions with my coach. Windy day, and I was riding up Hume Vale and I was flying. For myself, I was averaging like 27, 28 up the climb.
This is a climb, for anyone who doesn't know, just outside of Melbourne, just from a place called Whittlesea. It's quite probably like only a 3% gradient.
Yeah.
And it's really fast, but it's a climb that I grew up on racing on in a bunch, and you're trying to test yourself on this climb.
It's absolutely, I suppose, an effort, I suppose. And I was racing track later that night anyway, and just the road's been resealed now. It's very, very smooth, but it's very rough. And about a kilometre from the top, there's a sharp right-hander, and there was a little bump in the road, and I pulled my front wheel up to kind of float over this little bump, and the front wheel came out, and before I knew it...
Well, why was it not in?
Well,
skewer wasn't done up.
Skewer came loose, yes. Worked its way loose. So as the fork has come back down on the wheel. It's obviously grabbed the tyre and it's pitched me straight over the handlebars between heartbeats. Like, I didn't even have time to react. Smack bang on my head, and I felt my brain rattle and everything just shaken. I was lying on the ground, and my first thought was, oh my God, I've broken my neck. But I could wiggle my toes. So I'm like, well, I obviously haven't broken my neck, which is the wrong assumption.
Were you screaming?
I wasn't, no.
So it wasn't like excruciatingly painful, or it was just a bit of a shock?
It was massive shock. It was very painful, but I suppose when you think of Hollywood, when someone's losing an arm or being cut, there wasn't any of that. And I was by myself. Didn't have phone reception. So after I'd kind of gathered myself, I had to walk a kilometre back to the main road and wait for someone to call an ambulance.
How did you sort of get up, and were you just very slow?
Just stiff. And stupidly, I would say this to anyone listening, if you do have an injury like this, and don't assume that you haven't broken your neck. I was trying to move my neck, and it wasn't for hours later that in hospital and after x-rays that they said, you've broken your neck, we need to isolate it, you're going to be in a halo for 3 months, etc. So that's when I had the cage on my head for 3 months. But I was very fortunate, one, not to have spinal damage, and two, the number of stupid things I did between the accident and getting to hospital.
You're lucky you didn't do more damage.
Yeah. I mean, I had.
Were you trying to like crack your neck?
Absolutely, I was trying to move my neck. I had a bath. I remember my parents were, because I didn't even call an ambulance. I'm like, you know what? I'm fine. I don't need an ambulance. Dad, can you just come and pick me up? And then in the car, my parents are arguing which hospital they should take me to. I said, I'm just going to home, have a rest. I'll be fine. Again, so many stupid things I'd done. I should have just waited for an ambulance. Got medical professionals there, evaluated correctly. So that's a little PSA for anyone that hasn't a major injury on the road. But yeah, that's my war story. I was very fortunate. Happened around the time Anna Mears broke her neck shortly after. But yeah, it's and it made me extremely grateful for the use of all my limbs, because it could have been very different. Would have changed my life forever.
Big one. It's a big one. That was a nice segue into about you, because that was about you. This is a bit lighter though. BWS, beer, wine, or spirits, Andy. What's your poison of choice?
Well, if I never drank again, it would not faze me. I would. Melody is almost.
Well, you probably don't want the present I brought down for you today.
No. But I still like. I love a very good beer, and my mate Gons makes an incredible handcrafted beer. I don't need more than one or two, and actually I find that it affects me.
Alcohol? How could that affect you?
Wine, I love a great wine. Spirits, I've never been a spirits person. Obviously, I'm a massive coffee fan. It's tricky. I'm going to go with wine, because I think with a fantastic meal, wine highlights it perfectly.
A red wine.
And I know we went to the Heathcote Wine Festival. I know you're a massive winey. I would go with wine.
Okay, nice.
So,
well, you already
so
brought...
you're telling me you bought a nice bottle, right?
I'll take what I brought home.
Or is it the Life in the Peloton beer?
Could be, could not be. You never
There's
know.
A plug for you.
I guess you'll never know. What coffee do you drink then?
It's Genovese, Super Brazil.
Well, run me through. No, I'm talking about, okay.
It's style, right.
Yeah, what
right,
style?
right.
Do you like milk? You start with milk in the morning, you move to espresso, so it filters in the afternoon.
Yeah, I don't have a routine.
You can just wake up and have a espresso straight away.
Yeah. Or I'll have I very rarely have more than a magic in terms of milk. I don't like milky coffees. Couldn't tell you the last time I had a cappuccino. I reckon the cappuccino died when I was in uni in the 90s, rightly where it belongs. More of short mac, slightly longer on the milk front. Yeah.
Favourite cross-training exercise?
Gardening. Well, just call it gardening.
You know.
You know what I mean.
Clearing long strips of weeds.
Yeah. I like gardening. I like digging dirt and playing.
Anyone who knows Andy will know what we're talking about. Most rewatchable race. Now, I'm talking about that race that people out there should have seen, or maybe they've seen, but they need to go back and watch. What's that one race that sticks in your mind that you've watched a few times that you just love?
2004 Olympics track sprint final. Ryan Bailey versus Teo Boss. I was an Australian.
Athens, I guess.
Yeah, Athens. I was a bike courier in Canada, and I was in the cafe across the street from 885, which is like the 101 Collins at the time. And I remember it was wet. I was dripping, but they let me in to watch the TV, and the TV had the Olympics on.
Were you keen to see this event or just happened to be on?
It just happened to be on.
All right. Because it sort of makes sense to me that you'd be interested in that.
Look, I like to do more than I like to watch, but it was on, and obviously it is the grand final of the Goliaths of track sprinting and the gladiators. And I mean, you'll obviously show the clip, but Ryan Bailey does this little wheel flick, hop up the boards. Came from BMX. It was just so cool. He nose wheelies over the line in one of the heats.
It's something that's taken off, I think, from now. But I've recently gone back and watched this myself as well. He does this wheelies. He's going across the line, but he beats. This is the second sprint. He's one sprint down from Teo Boss. If he loses his sprint, gold medal over. He comes around him. On the last little gets the run off the bend. He's coming around. It's a photo finish, and he's doing a wheelie over the line. Like, you see guys do this now on the track, but it's like when they've got
showing off.
Yeah, they've got a bike length or whatever. He just naturally does this.
I suppose his bike throw
was a wheelie.
Pulls up the nose of the bike. And the interesting thing about that era of track cycling is Ryan was the last spinning, accelerating sprinter. Now, like Teo Boss was that winded up from way out like Chris Hoy would do, because Chris Hoy came from the time trial, the 1K.
Same as Boss,
right? So he was the last of that generation where he's very explosive speed, high leg speed, and it was cool as hell to be an Australian in Canada, to watch it on this shitty little TV in a cafe. I was like fist pumping. People are looking at me like I'm an idiot, but it stuck out. And you can watch, the great thing is you can watch all of it in 5 minutes.
It's so good.
It's so good.
Like I said, I've watched it. It's in Italian, but I still didn't care. I still watched it.
That's right.
It's really you don't care. You don't need the commentary because it's just so great to watch. There's no cat and mouse. There's no track standing. It's just on.
Yeah.
And
Bailey.
We'll put the show in the show notes so everyone can watch it.
Yeah.
Right, a couple of questions left. When you're out there doing your gardening, what's in the headphones? Because I know you get through a few pods. You always give me some good feedback. So I know you listen to the Life in the Peloton. What's in your headphones when you're out there?
I love Revisionist History, which is Malcolm Gladwell. Fantastic serial podcast. If anyone hasn't listened to S-Town, listen to a lot of that. Listen to a lot of Jordan Peterson. Listen to a lot of Life in the Peloton, which are, I love the breadth of the kind of people that you have on the show. And I obviously listen to a lot of music, like Pink Floyd, Led Zeppelin, Tool, listening to a bit of Brian Eno at the moment, a lot of Radiohead, which is something that we connected with earlier in the day. But I like to keep it varied, but I find a conversation in your ears is a really relaxing thing that you can do a task and have it in your ears, and I really enjoy it. And I feel that each time you listen to a podcast, and This American Life is another great one that I listen to.
It's good. Just
stories, and there'll often be just one little piece that you'll take away from it. And I talked about this earlier in the week, whereas when it's shit days as bike messenger, my dispatcher would say, all right, guys, 2 words for you today, hot bath. And it was like a mental note to this will all end soon. And podcasts are very much like that. You'll just
this podcast will end soon. I can get through it. Come on.
No, but you'll just get one little piece of wisdom, and I know you do this. You take little pieces of wisdom from each person that you meet in the world, and I think that is the great thing about podcasts is you can initially listen to it, and you'll think, I'm not interested in this subject, but then you'll get one little gem. You'll carry that for the rest of your time. One thing I'll just throw in this, spice it up. A great podcast episode to listen to is on the Move. It's actually the Forward Part podcast. I think I've mentioned this before. It's Michael Moore, interviewed by Lance Armstrong, and that's all I'm going to say. It is a brilliant life story of a man who's gone through hell and his journey. So
awesome.
Throw it in.
Best thing about riding a bike for you, because you've ridden a lot of bikes, you've ridden in very different disciplines, still riding a bike today. Why do you get out riding a bike, Andy? What's the best thing for you?
Change it. Look, I suppose it's like the visual stimulation of seeing the world go by at a certain speed. In a car, it's hard to process everything, but at a bike speed, you can soak it in, and particularly on the trail, you're surrounded by beautiful outdoors, lush scenery. The environment changes through the seasons. I think it's just watching the world go by at a really pleasant speed and being able to interact with it. You know, it's that outside experience. It's
the wind passing over your face, the sun on your back, the rain in your face. It could be
rain, or at night, it could be insects coming in your eyes. But it's all that. It's like being outside is, I suppose, the best thing about being on a bike. And that's why I've never really been a huge fan of indoor cycling and the whole Zwift thing. I know people obsess about it, but it's never been my thing.
Big reason why I like to come out and interview is we get to go riding after.
The trails are calling.
Let's go.
Trails are calling. Let's do the super loop, see if you can get a KOM for whatever that is worth.
Thanks, Andy.
No worries, Mitch.
Well, guys, what did you think? Talking Luft with the man himself, FYXO, Andy White, aka FYXO. I hope you enjoyed it. Next week, if you're in Melbourne, come down on the 10th of September, Sunday the 10th, head up to Mount Macedon. I'm going to be attempting an Everest. Can you believe it? An Everesting attempt. Attempt, I use that word because who knows, can I make it? The idea of this is there's going to be a podcast about it. Look, to be honest with you, I sort of thought the idea was pretty dumb. I don't know why anyone would want to do such a thing. But then I started talking to Andy Van Bergen, and I sort of liked the origins of the event, why people wanted to go out and do it, a challenge that everyone could attempt in their own backyard, find a hill and just go for it. So I thought, yeah, maybe I'll try and do this thing, and I'll try and document what it feels like. Anyway, I'm going to be down there at Mount Macedon all day long. Come and check it out on the south side if you're around. Grab yourself a beer at the Mount Macedon Hotel. I've got a keg of Life in the Peloton beer there. I might pop in and have a few cheekies on my way up and down as well. Well, I definitely will. I'm not going to lie there. That's going to be numbing the pain for me on my Everest attempt. Next week, we've got a fantastic episode with Sepp Kuss. He is in the Vuelta as we speak right now. I'm doing very well. And I thought it'd be good to hear the untold story of the Super Domestique. That's the episode next week. Sunday, I'm Everesting. Wednesday next week, we've got the episode from Sepp. Guys, there's heaps coming up on Life in the Peloton. Big thanks to the team behind the scenes who are doing great work. Will Jones, who puts this episode together. And of course, Rafa, our partner here at Life in the Peloton. Guys, until next week, take it easy. Cheers. The music in this episode was composed by Pete Shelley. Cheers, mate.